Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Something that I said I was never going to do, and here we are. Usually when I say I'm not going to do something, what usually happens is at some point in my life I'll turn around and go, actually no, I am going to do that thing, because the reason why I didn't want to do it is probably the reason why I actually need to do it. So I made the decision that I'm going to create a YouTube channel and take you through my journey, be real, take you through the highs, the lows, and maybe you'll learn some things or to be able to take away some things to help you on your own journey as well. Or maybe you won't, maybe you think it's shit, and again, that's absolutely fine too. And essentially, obviously, there's been a lot of change over the last little while, a lot of decisions, and to be honest, I don't really know where it's going to take me. I don't know how it's all going to plan out, and again, that is okay, because nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. You just have to put yourself in a position where you focus on improving, right? You focus on achieving the goals that you set out, because at the end of the day, I am a big believer that everything happens for a reason, whether you know what that reason is, whether you don't know how it's going to plan out. Everything happens in a way that leads you to the place where you're meant to be, right? Whether it feels good in the moment, whether it feels shit in the moment, everything happens for a reason. And all of this change has, funnily enough, happened obviously at the end of 2025, heading into 2026. That's not the way that it was planned out, but it's a bit of a coincidence really, that it's just like end of 2025, beginning of 2026, lots of change is going to be happening, and I can tell you a little bit more about this obviously as we go through the journey with actually like what's going on, how things are planning out and things like that. And going into 2026, like 2025 was a bit of a weird year for myself. It's probably the best and the worst year mixed into one when I reflect on it. I've had some of the best memories, some memories that I will cherish forever, and there's been a lot of lows as well. There's been a lot of things that have happened that have put me in a situation where I've not felt particularly great, okay? And it's, there's been some obstacles along the road, but I'm a firm believer that these things are all lessons, right? And they actually help you to grow. And even in that moment when it feels really freaking shit and you don't know what's going on with your life, there's always a reason to something, right? And actually you will get through it and you will learn and you'll be able to grow, right? And that's always really, really important to remember, because sometimes when you're in those moments, it's very hard to see that, right? Sometimes you feel like you're literally just getting through the day, right? You're surviving, you're not thriving, but it always leads you to something, and everything always plans out the way that it's meant to. And you never really know what's going to happen, right? You literally never do. You can make these plans and you can say you're going to do X, Y, and Z, but sometimes life just doesn't work out like that. And again, that is okay. And one of the big things that's always really important to remember, it's like you always just want to focus on the things that you can control. You want to focus on the things that are going to help you, things that are going to help to benefit your life. Those are the things that are really, really important. And obviously a lot of people have been doing, a lot of reflection, obviously at the end of the year, setting goals heading into 2026. And I think it's really important that you don't just reflect at the end of the year, right? You want to be doing this all the time. You want to look at the good, you want to look at the bad, and you don't want to look at the bad in a means of, oh, I'm going to be dwelling on that or beating yourself up for things. Like, you want to look at it from a perspective of like, okay, what can I learn from that? What has that situation actually showed me? What have I learned? What can I do to benefit my life in the future, or to manage things differently in the future? That's always really important. But then also to give yourself a little bit of grace and to see how far you've come as well, right? Because like for myself, when I look at certain situations from last year, I think, well, hindsight would be an amazing thing, right? But we don't have that. So you look at it from a place of, okay, well, do you know what? Give myself a bit of grace, because those situations I managed in the best way that I possibly could with the tools that I had in that time. But looking back, knowing what I know now, things could be managed a little bit differently, right? And that's where you start to put in the work. But then you also have to think about, okay, well, actually, if that was 10 years ago, if that happened 10 years ago, do you know what? I managed that in a lot better way than what I would have done, right? So it's having those different perspectives of things. So it's not reflecting on something to beat yourself up or to put yourself in a position where it's like, that's just who I am. It's like, no, you can learn from these things. And if you do learn from these things, that is what's going to essentially help you to grow as a person. And that is so, so important. And when you look at it as going, okay, but like, what can I do? What are the things that you can do to help to push you further forward, right? Like if you're in your fitness journey, it's a case of, okay, well, maybe I didn't drop as much body fat as what I wanted to. Maybe I haven't built as much muscle as I wanted to. Maybe I haven't been as consistent as I wanted to. Or what things can you put in place? You know, is it a case that you need to learn how to follow through with your actions no matter how you feel? Is it a case that you need to get a coach because you don't really know what you're doing? You know, there's lots of different things, right? And, you know, even when it comes to improving yourself, you know, and working on yourself, you know, like I said, might be to get a coach, maybe to see a therapist, right? And I still think there's still quite a bit of like taboo around obviously seeing a therapist, right? Or if you're seeing a therapist, there must be something that's seriously wrong. And it's like, no, that's not true at all. Actually, that means that you want to improve your lifestyle, right? You want to be able to learn how to manage things better. You want to be able to see things from a different point of view and learn different things about yourself as well, you know. And I think that's really important. And if I was to be honest, I think that absolutely every single person could do with going to therapy. I really, really do, because I think there is so much to learn. And I think it's really important that people actually learn to become self-aware, right? And understand that there's always things that you can do to be a better person, right? For yourself, for other people, like whatever it might be, right? Because ultimately, this is your life, right? And if you're not happy with certain things, there's always things that you can do, right? And that is so, so important, so, so important. So it's like, if you're in a position where you're reflecting on stuff and you think, actually, do you know what? I'd like to be able to manage that a little bit differently, or I'd like to be able to improve this in my life. Sit down, write it out, look at what's actually going to help you, and then act on that. Of course, it's not always going to be easy, and it might be challenging, and you know, it might feel uncomfortable, but actually that's what's going to build your own confidence, right? And that's so, so important to remember. And a lot of the time, the thing that holds people back is fear, right? And this is one thing that I've realized about myself, okay, and the aspect of fear that I need to work on, right? Because I've split fear down into two different sections, right? The fear that you can control and the fear that you can't control, right? And the fear that you can control is the things that you can do to benefit yourself, right? Because a lot of the time, the fear that you can control is that you just don't have confidence in yourself, right? So a lot of people don't start their fitness journey because they've tried it before and they failed. So they have this fear of failing, or they feel like they're not going to succeed, so what's the point anyway, right? They haven't built that self-trust. Now, at the start of my journey, that was something that I massively had a big focus on, right? Building my own confidence of things, showing up, doing the things that I said I was going to do, you know, like this YouTube video, which I'll talk a little bit about in a second. You know, it's doing the things that feel hard that's going to actually help you to grow and build that confidence in yourself. So like the fear that you can control is the fear that you should focus on, right? Now, the fear that you can't control, that's the thing that you need to learn how to just block out, right? And this is something that I realised was heavily having an impact on me, right? Because I was focusing too much on the stuff that I couldn't control. And that was holding me back in different areas. And that was, you know, stopping me from doing certain things. It was making me react in certain ways. And the past couple of weeks, I've actually learned to just let that go, because actually that was consuming me. And when you look at that, it might be a case of, I don't know, the fear of what other people might think, the fear of not knowing how it's going to plan out. But at the end of the day, you can try and control those things as much as you want, but the reality is you can't, right? So if you let it consume your life, you're not going to be able to be present. You're not going to be able to put your energy and the effort into the things that you actually can control. So if you're in a position and you're worrying about something, or you're scared about trying something, right? Break it down. Ask yourself what it actually is that you're scared of, right? What is the actual fear? Because if you can control it, then that actually means that's something that you can work towards, right? You can get the help, you can show up for yourself, you can do the hard things, right? And learn how to do the things without having that emotional attachment to it, right? So many people act on how they're feeling in that moment, right? And it's a real skill, and it's something that you need to focus on, something that I'm still working on. It's not reacting in that moment. It's doing the hard thing, no matter how you feel, right? And yeah, I've got good at that with obviously my fitness lifestyle and things like that, but I need to get better at that in other areas of my life, right? And it's understanding actually more about yourself, and actually doing that work helps you to understand more about yourself. You know, like I've learned so much about myself over the last little while, and you actually learn how strong you are as well once you actually start showing up for yourself, no matter how you actually feel, right? Because you always have control over how you respond, how you act. Like that is the one thing you have control over, and that is the one thing that you want to focus on, right? Is showing up for yourself. But you can't control anything else. You can't control what other people think, how other people react, how your life is going to plan out. Like you can't have control over everything. So those areas that you don't have control, just let it go. Just let it go. Don't think about it. Put your efforts into the areas that you can control, because honestly, it is so freeing. It really, really is. And like when I compare this to doing this YouTube, right, I sat there and I was like, okay, what was the reason why I said I can't do it, right? I'm not going to do a YouTube. So the things that I can control, well, I'm not creative for a start, and I'm not good with tech. So for me, I was like, oh, it's just not going to work, right? But actually, those are things that you can get better at, right? And how do you get better at something? You put in the reps, you do the work. So I was like, okay, well, I can focus on that, right? That's fine. What are the things that I can't control that's holding me back? Whether people watch it, whether people think it's shit. Well, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if people don't watch it, people think it's shit? Absolutely nothing. Nothing bad is actually going to come from that at all. So just do it. Actually, just do the thing. So here I am doing the thing, and this is something that I'm going to stay consistent with. I'm going to be uploading YouTubes, whether you want to watch it, whether you don't, that's fine. I'm going to try and get a little bit more creative with it. I'm going to try and, you know, up my tech skills. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to show up, because that's how you get better at something, right? So when it comes to different things, it's understanding like you can improve your life. You can do the things that you say you're going to do, and, you know, never just accept that's just who I am. Like, 'cause it'd be very easy for me to turn around and be like, I'm not doing that because I'm rubbish at tech and I'm never going to be able to do it. It's going to take me so long. Like, I'm rubbish at doing X, Y, and Z. But actually, do you know what? Like, the more you do something, the better you get at it. Like we speak to you all about, you know, when it comes to training, you go into the gym for the first time, you don't know what you're doing, and you're like, oh my God, I am so shit at this. And it's like, well, yeah, of course you are. Like, how can you expect to be good at something when you've never actually done it before? But you keep showing up, you keep doing the work, and you get better at it, right? Just like anything in life. And do you know what? If it is shit and nobody wants to watch this, again, like, it's not going to bother me, right? That's not what it's all about. I'm doing this for myself, to show up for myself, to share my journey, and the people who want to listen will listen, right? And that's absolutely fine. So it's understanding, like, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, it doesn't matter what anybody else does. At the end of the day, the only things that you want to focus on are the things that you have control over, right? Because when you do that, you're just going to grow as a person. Your life is going to get better. New doors are going to open. And like I said, like, going into this year is scary for me, right? Because I've made a lot of decisions and I have no idea how it's all going to plan out. You know, I have no idea what's going to happen. But through all of the shitty times that have happened, I've built that trust in myself to know that actually, do you know what? You can get through it because you've already got through X amount of stuff. So actually, as long as you keep showing up and you keep doing the things that you say you're going to do, everything's going to be fine. Everything is going to work out exactly the way that it's actually meant to work out, right? So yeah, I'm probably going to wrap this up now. And again, it's not tech savvy, it's not creative, it's just me here being real. And actually, what I'm going to end it on is this quote. What did it say? I read it somewhere and I can't actually quite remember where I read it from. But it said, I don't know how this day ends. Or no, I don't know how this is going to end, but I don't need to actually be able to live today. And that's important. I think that's quite a powerful quote, because it's important to actually be present, enjoy the journey, because you know what? You don't know how it's going to end, but live in the now, focus on the things that you can do. That's going to be the most important thing. So I think this is where I meant to say something like hit like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.